Welcome to Yuva and UNICEF India's Impact with Youth, a series where we bring along young changemakers and global thought leaders on a platform to discuss creative and innovative ideas to bring about an impact with youth.
I'm so excited to be part of this discussion today, where we'll be talking about our journeys of climate action, which is an extremely pertinent topic for today's youth. We are joined here by Ms. Elizabeth Yee, Executive Vice President, Program Strategy at the Rockefeller Foundation.
Thank you, Shikha and Akhilesh. It's really a pleasure to be here with you both on this International Day of Climate Action. And if you'll forgive me, I won't give my age or share that with the audience. But instead, I think as I said when we sat down, really had a chance to read both of your biographies and was really inspired by the work that you're doing. And so I wanted to kick it off by asking you, really, how did you get into climate? And tell us a little bit about your climate action journey. What significant initiatives have you undertaken so far? What are some of the things that you're most proud of? And so maybe, Shikha, I'll start with you.
Sure. So my journey with climate action actually started with a sense of concern for the nature and world around me. I'm a sort of person who enjoys being in solace of the nature and seeing the world around us with the shift in seasons. There is change in the rainfall patterns, and the trees which once stood mighty and tall are now disappearing. So that is a point of concern for me. But in order to solve these challenges, I feel there needs to be an intersection of non-profits, CSOs, and also the policymakers, government, and of course the youth in putting their perspectives forward. And this is the main motivating factor that propelled me to start my journey in the development sector and undertake the projects on working with marginalized communities in Himachal Pradesh, on helping them in finding sustainable alternative livelihood opportunities in the green sector, working with the aspirational districts in Jharkhand to solve the problem of providing clean access to drinking water. So yes, these are a few projects that I've worked on in climate action, and I'm really excited to move forward in my journey in helping to contribute.
I think the first similarity definitely is with what she said about the fact that the concern for environment and nature is very natural and innate with everybody. You love the trees, the plants, everything. You love nature. You definitely need a push to sort of get deep into climate action. And for me, personally, that push came in 2018, where my state, Kerala, faced the 2018 floods, which was unprecedented. The picturesque landscapes that I used to be in awe of turned into something horrific. A flood that hasn't happened in over a century.
Can you give us a visual?
A visual? We were, I think there were thousands of people running around to rescue people overnight. There were people stuck in, there are houses with 2 floors. So the water level reached the 2nd floor. There were people taking videos, come please rescue us at the middle of the night. Their phones are about to die. They're with kids, they're with everybody. They're neck deep in water, just moving to watch. And it was a few miles away from my house. And at that point of time, a lot of young people came to support our state to, beat this disaster. And in one instance, which was post the floods, there was a cleanup that happened in a forest. I was part of it to, one, raise awareness and also to clear as much trash, especially plastic, from that area as possible. And this really, really moved me. And one thing that I found in common in a forest is the amount of plastic straws I collected. I decided to start a campaign after that, and within 2 months, we collected over 15,000 signatures on paper from young people across the state. We met the chief minister, handed the petition over, did so many campaigns and everything, and this was so successful beyond my imagination. And this was the time I was just about to move to Australia to do my bachelor's, which was my dream. But within a year, I realized I can make much more impact back home. I decided to drop out, come back to India, set up my foundation. And it's been 4 years and more, and we have been doing amazing work. And just recently, we were accredited by the UNEP as well.
Congratulations, that's huge.
Thank you. Yeah, so from your experience, what opportunities and challenges do you see in young advocates driving change. I think you have heard from our stories now. What have you seen on a global perspective? Maybe if you can share.
Happy to. I mean, it's interesting to me and also deeply upsetting that both of your journeys started with a spark, an experience that was deeply personal, that affected your perception and your potential for future experience in the world. To me, this opportunity is the moment to say, climate is a crisis of equity, and equity is certainly the challenge that vulnerable communities have faced, but it's also an age equity issue. That I told you the story about my daughter when we were just starting this, and it's about the world that you are living in and the world that we're inheriting. And so I find a lot of strength and inspiration from some of the incredible youth leaders that I've learned about, watched, seen, had the pleasure to meet. I had a chance in our offices in New York to interview a woman called Aisha Siddiqa, who really talked about her experience as someone who lived in a community that was coastal, vulnerable, and how it had both impacted her community in New York, which you would think in New York City this wouldn't be an issue. But I almost didn't make it here because of the floods that happened on Friday, which were waist deep and weren't as perilous as Kerala, but something that we don't usually see on a daily basis. And so she talked about that challenge. And the thing that really stuck with me from that discussion is she ended our dialogue by saying, everyone in this room has someone that they're going to love on this earth in 2050. And so that moment was like, this is exactly why we need to do this work. This is why, as a foundation who just released our first climate strategy and our first holistic strategy in 110 years of being around, it just felt like this is the moment to make sure that we are in this fight, that we are supporting communities, building greater climate action, better decision making, helping people understand the behavior changes and patterns that they can take on to help this. And really ensuring that we bring youth and we engage with youth at the table, not just as tell me what you think, I'll listen and I'll go do it, but how do we actually partner together so that when you look back in 20 years, the planet looks the way you want it to. And it has the opportunity both for you and future generations that everyone before us has had. So, Akhilesh, tell me, share one significant challenge you've faced in your climate action efforts and how you've managed to overcome those challenges.
Working as an organization, working definitely on inclusion, coming back to the fact that disprivileged communities have a lot of issues, and when you leave them aside of decision making and when you create policies, you're actually moving ahead, but at what cost? You're not exactly making any change on the ground for the people who actually need the change to happen. And along with that, I think the challenges of being a young person and starting the movement itself, the solution is the fact that at a point of time the stakeholders realize that the amount of dynamics that we can bring in and the different perspectives that we are able to bring in really holds a lot of value, and at the end we are included in the decision making process. There's going to be a huge change that happens. So I think the support that we definitely get from people like you really propels us ahead.
That's pretty relevant to the today's scenario, and this brings me to the next question that Akhilesh mentioned about the multi-stakeholder approaches. What in your experience should be the participation of youth in the multi-stakeholder and collaborative partnerships when we talk about climate change and climate action specifically?
We should be sitting side by side at the table. I think that's one of the key parts of the equations that we need to bring into the dialogues, especially around climate, is the deep recognition that the future is yours and we should work together in shaping a future that you are excited about, that you see opportunity in. I think the other voices at the table that we also need to see represented are the ones that don't have as much of a voice or aren't often there. I just came from our Asia exchange that our team put on. We had probably about 100 plus different people there. And one of the reflections at the moment was, how do we bring more communities in? We keep saying we're going to help communities. Have them at the table. Make sure that we have women at the table. Make sure that we have Indigenous communities at the table. So the voices that aren't as represented on a regular basis should be there, representing their interest. One of the projects that we've worked on probably for the past 2 decades is bringing clean energy to communities as an opportunity for economic development, equity, just to be part of the modern economy, because all of us have a mobile phone. One of the things that we saw when each community was given a light bulb, and when women had a chance to decide where that light bulb was, they put it in the center of the home. When men had a chance to put the light bulb where they wanted it to, it was on the porch. I have, and what we saw in the places where women had a chance to make that choice, we saw children have an opportunity to learn more at night. We saw women have a chance to increase their own income as well as household income because they could work after children went to bed. And it's that equity of opportunity that we are trying to bring as a foundation to everything we do, and make sure that those voices that aren't often represented are at that table, because when they do, things really change for the better. One of the things that we need to continue to strive towards as a foundation, as a community of people on the planet, is this idea of a climate resilient world, one where people have access to good food, where that is nutritious for them, nutritious for the planet, that they have access to economic opportunity where they know they can provide for their families, that they have a chance to grow and learn and have access to finance so that they can grow their businesses, have access to healthcare so that they can stay healthy. Those are all a few of the key components to what I see as a climate resilient world. I would love for you to improve and build on that and share what you think a more climate resilient world could look like.
I think if I can picture a climate resilient world in the future, it would be where the humans are living in harmony with the nature, where we have made great strides toward achieving the ecological balance, and we have made great contribution in saving the natural conservation as well, and maybe we can see the comeback of endangered species as well. Also, I would like to mention about the mindful consumption than just being the consumers of anything and everything that we don't even need at first place, right? So that's my imagination of climate resilient world, and I think that if we all come together, achieving this would be one day a reality.
I love that vision, because I always say to my kids, I'm like, everybody gets what they need, and that would be a much more climate resilient world, because it would reduce the amount of waste and we would only produce what we actually needed, and that would mean more for everyone to go around.
Okay, which book or movie related to climate change has impacted you the most?
While growing up in my childhood years, I was a huge fan of WALL-E, the Pixar Disney movie, Yes. And I think that gives us a great sense of reflection if we again look at the movie, that how we as humans have failed ourselves and literally turned our planet into trash, that robots have to come and save the planet, and we have to move to entirely different space altogether, right? And I think it's very inspirational and true to today's scenario, because it gives us a sense of introspection about what we are doing to the only planet that we have. Yeah.
Definitely, I think.
What about you, Ms. Lee?
Exactly.
Oh, that's a good question. I actually think the movie hasn't been made. There have been so many good ones. I thought, you could say, oh, it's The Ministry of the Future is the best book I've read. It certainly is deeply compelling, especially that first chapter. Because I remember reading it and saying, I actually just was here in Delhi in April 2023. This is the chapter that I'm reading right now, and that is the problem. It is reality, and it's called Ministry of the Future. And to me, the key part of climate change, at least the way that I hear it from my children and their friends, is how do you even know what to do? Like, what can you contribute? Yeah, you could stop using straws. That's one small thing. But how do you break it down to a personal level thing so that you don't feel helpless, that you feel you're empowered to help yourself and help your family, even as a kid, make good decisions?
Right.
I think I have an interesting answer to that. The fact that it mostly isn't related to climate change, I believe it's quite an eye-opener in terms of how devastating it could be It's the movie 2012 that came, I think, in 2012. Around the time where we were freaking out in terms of the fact that, okay, we might die according to, different
The doomsday.
scenarios. Yes, the doomsday.
Yeah.
But there was a collective sense of fear and, something that you could see in the fact that, okay, what do we do in terms of, and 2012 as a movie visually captured sort of the essence of how much destruction can we expect. It might be so exaggerated in terms of how it could be, but then it gives us a visual to go back into what we should remember in terms of what could happen to climate change. Yes.
That's right. I think it's very important for us humans who have the tendency to forget about our actions to keep on reminding in order to introspect and look within, right? This just brings me to another fun question that I would like to first ask Miss Elizabeth and then maybe Akhilesh. If you had the power of one superhuman quality in order to bring a positive difference in climate change and to the world at large, what would that be?
So tough to only pick one.
Yeah.
I would pick the power of time. Usually I want to jump forward in time, and to see what the world would look like, I'd actually say I want to go backwards.
Yeah.
And see if we could make different time travel backwards. I guess that's Back to the Future. Maybe they made a movie about that. But that would also give us a chance to say, here's what we know now. How can we make different decisions then so that we can actually be in a different place now?
Yeah.
But I'd love to know I had so many ideas of what this could be. So that was actually what I was going to say, Shikha. It's like the movie hasn't been created because I could see all these cartoon superheroes of like super fans and cooling shields. What do you think that we should, what superpower would you want?
I think if I had the power of one magical superpower, I would really want to remove all the plastic from the world with just a single snap.
Love it.
Yeah, and I agree that plastic is great to a certain extent. It is helping us in certain ways as well. But as long as our oceans are thriving again, they are becoming clean, our food is devoid of microplastics and, plastic debris, what a world it would be.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think I would really like to have that superpower. About you, Akhilesh?
Oh, okay. I would love to control somebody's mind or hear what they're thinking, and I would love to play this around with the policymakers and be in the rooms and play with their minds, sort of what can happen on the next.
That you can do in reality as well.
I was like, I think there's a movie about that too.
Yeah.
Great question.
All right, that brings us to yet another episode of Impact with Youth, where we had a very enriching discussion with Akhilesh and Miss Elizabeth. I really enjoyed deep diving into your journeys and hearing about your global perspectives. And it was such a fun discussion. Thank you for being with us.
Thanks for being courageous. Thanks for fighting for our future. And we look forward to working with you.
Definitely. Yes, and a happy International Day of Climate Action to all the young change makers out there. The future is in our hands, and it's a responsibility worth taking. Let's build a sustainable and equitable world for all. Thank you.